Crucial transgender verdict in the Supreme Court today. A bench of the apex court is likely to deliver a judgment on the plea of transgenders that they should be treated as others in the category in government forms for administrative processes. The community says that they don't want to fall in either of the categories of male or female. Pierre Fitter is now joining us with more details. Pierre, what is the ground for this kind of a response that the community expects from the Supreme Court of wanting a separate category of others for themselves?
Vedika, I beg your pardon, Maha, one of the main reasons the Supreme Court has granted transgenders their own gender is Article 15 of the Constitution, which prohibits discrimination against citizens on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any other self-identification. And what the Supreme Court has essentially done is it said we are going to allow people to self-identify their genders. In this case, transgenders will be a recognized third gender for Indian citizens, and therefore no one can be discriminated against on the grounds of being a transgender.
Also, Pierre, we understand in this landmark judgment by the Supreme Court that has defined transgenders as a third gender in the others category, there are several other points that have been raised by the Supreme Court as well. Will you be able to take us through them?
You know, one of the interesting examples of this is just in terms of identifying how many people there are in India who identify themselves as transgender. The census, for example, does not count transgenders at the moment as a separate gender. Interestingly enough, the UID program does have a separate category for transgenders. So there is a need, in some senses, to build a uniform way of recording Indian citizens, and that's one of the logistical reasons, at least, that this makes sense. But also remember that there is a very it's also a very emotive issue for the community itself. They faced a lot of discrimination in private life, certainly, but also in their professional lives for their gender. And this verdict by the Supreme Court certainly equips them with legal recourse in case they are discriminated against.
Pierre, how did the Supreme Court take note of this matter? Was any particular PIL filed by the community? This case has been with the Supreme Court for a while, remember, Maha, and today's verdict by the court is certainly a boost for the community. They've been fighting for recognition as a separate gender for many years, and it's finally come for them. What exactly does the Supreme Court direct the centre and state to do in this case? All right, we seem to have lost our link there with Pierre Fitter, but of course, Pierre giving us the details there of what the Supreme Court has said, categorizing transgenders as a third category. Anjali Gopalan from the NAS Foundation is joining us on the phone line. Ma'am, how would you categorize this verdict by the Supreme Court today? Is it something that should be hailed a long-standing demand?
Yes, of course. It's wonderful that they've done this because it really does secure the rights of the transgender community. So I'm very happy that this has happened. It's about time.
And what rights exactly is it that you think will be safeguarded if there is a third category of others for the transgenders?
Well, I think, things like getting their passports made, getting ration cards made, getting Aadhaar cards made in their name as TGs would be fabulous. Voters' cards. So it just makes life so much easier, right?
Right,
and if the third category is recognized, or for example, when you do an application in college or university, you can actually do it as a transgender person.
Okay, and how long has this fight taken, really?
I think it's been years since this demand has been voiced. So I'm so happy that the Supreme Court has taken this very forward-looking view.
The Supreme Court, ma'am, has also said that they should be given the right for a change in sex is what we understand. Can you elaborate on that demand as well?
Well, I think, for example, if people who are trans and need sex change operations, if the Supreme Court is saying, is it saying that the government hospitals should provide this service? Because if that's what it's saying, it really means a lot to the community. Because otherwise, these surgeries are very expensive. So at least if they're done through the government system, they will get a reasonable break on this issue.
Ma'am, what was the kind of hindrance that the community faced from the states as well as the centre as far as this demand was concerned?
Well, this exchange demand?
All right. Ma'am, I'd like to hold you there for a bit because we're getting some reactions to this Supreme Court judgment.
Dealing with this matter, और इसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आज एक बहुत बड़ा फैसला दिया है जो विश्व में पहली बार किसी भी देश में किन्नर्स कम्युनिटी को, हिजड़ा कम्युनिटीज को थर्ड जेंडर के तौर पे रिकॉग्नाइज किया है। तीसरा सेक्स, मेल, फीमेल और उसके बाद में थर्ड जेंडर। और उसके साथ साथ उन्होंने सरकार को, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट्स को, सभी को ये पूरी तरह डायरेक्शन दिया है, ऑर्डर्स दिए हैं कि इनके राइट्स को बैकवर्ड क्लास में इनको डील करें, इनको एम्प्लॉयमेंट में, एजुकेशन में, समाज के हर स्फीयर में इनको बराबर राइट्स दिए जाएं, इंक्लूडिंग ट्रांसपोर्ट, जैसे बस अड्डे पर उनके टॉयलेट्स में, रेलवे स्टेशन पर उनके टॉयलेट्स में। सो लाइक ऑल अदर कंट्रीज इस तरह का रिजर्वेशन इनको मिलना चाहिए। बहुत दिनों से इन्होंने त्रासदियां झेली हैं, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन झेला है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आर्टिकल 14, आर्टिकल 16, आर्टिकल 19 और आर्टिकल 21 का हवाला देते हुए थर्ड जेंडर डिक्लेयर किया है स्पेशली किन्नर कम्युनिटी को, और उनको पूरे राइट्स।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्या कहा, एडॉप्शन की भी बात कही गई?
हाँ, एडॉप्शन के भी राइट्स पूरा क्लियर है। 1948 की एडॉप्शन पॉलिसी में ये क्लियर है कि कोई भी सिटीजन अपने जीवन में एडॉप्शन कर सकता है, तो उनको भी बराबरी से वो दर्जा दिया जाए, बराबरी से वो राइट दिया जाए कि वो लोग एडॉप्शन करने के लिए पूरी तरह स्वतंत्र है, बराबर उनको अधिकार है। यस, रिजर्वेशन के लिए भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्लियर किया है कि इनको बराबर बैकवर्ड क्लास में घोषित किया है और बैकवर्ड क्लास के पूरे लाभ इनको शामिल करके इनको बेनिफिट एजुकेशन में, एम्प्लॉयमेंट में, हर तरह के फील्ड में जहां जहां एम्प्लॉयमेंट रिजर्वेशन का लाभ मिलना चाहिए वहां इनको मिलेगा। Yes, India is the first country in the world where the third gender have been recognized. तीसरा सेक्स जो है, तीसरा जो एक इशू दिया है मेल फीमेल के बाद में, ये थर्ड जेंडर टीजी के तौर पे उन्होंने उसको रिकॉग्नाइज किया है। ट्रांसजेंडर एक ब्रॉड कैटेगरी है और इसमें थर्ड जेंडर किनर्स को डील किया गया। इन इंग्लिश ओके। Yes.
Today, Supreme Court has given a landmark judgment regarding transgenders. Has given a landmark judgment for transgenders.
Yes.
What was the judgment?
The Supreme Court has taken very serious view about the transgender community, which is a broader term, but the kinners which have been deprived since very, very long years, now they have been recognized as third gender in the country. And they will be getting the category of backward class and will be entitled to all the reservation facilities in employment, in education, in public place, in even transport, at bus stops or railway stations. Everything will be given to them at par with the citizen. They have considered a wider say they are the citizen, and a human rights should also be considered along with the citizen rights. That is what have been done. And India is the first country in the entire world to deal with the third category of sex. This is what. Direction have been given to all the state governments and the central government for complying the direction of the court to give the reservation and to identify them, gender identity as well as the rights thereof. They have done. Thank you.
I'll just record one separately with you, sir. एक सेकंड हिंदी देते हैं। Can I just record one with you, sir? We have a later bulletin. Where are we?
Yes.
There you are. Tic Tac.
All right, Anjali Gopalan of NAS Foundation still with us. Ma'am, a very important point made by the lawyer there, saying that the right to adoption has also been given by the Supreme Court now to transgenders. How difficult has that particular fight been?
You know, it's always been an issue for not only transgenders but also for the rest of the LGBT community to adopt children, right? It's not that simple. So I think hopefully this opens the door for larger communities to benefit from this kind of a judgment.
All right, with that, India becomes the first country, as the lawyer was pointing out there, in the world to recognize transgenders as a third gender. Anjali Gopalamay, thanks for speaking with Headlines today.